Welcome to The Verdict. I'm Kent Myers, once again flying solo. Mick Cornett is not here today, but we'll be back next week. And I, of course, will be really glad to have him back. We are today going to have as our guest in the next segment, the next two segments of the show, the Chief Justice of the Oklahoma Supreme Court, Douglas Combs. Justice Combs has been on the court for a while. We'll get more into his background in a minute. But I wanted this show to be entitled Meet the Chief Justice. He just became Chief Justice several months ago, and I want you to get acquainted with him. We've had each Chief Justice for 16 years join us on the show, and this is a continuation of that tradition. We think that you'll like to get acquainted with him and hear what the court does under his leadership. You're watching The Verdict. We'll be right back in about a couple of minutes.
Rosetta Stone, Chickasaw, take one.
Action.
My name is Nevaeh Smith. I am 14, and I am Chickasaw. Hitlali.
My name is Jariah Iachabi. I'm 13, and I'm Chickasaw.
Rosetta Stone Chickasaw Level 1 includes 40 lessons. It's centered around a Chickasaw family.
I'm really proud to be part of this. I'm glad I got to take part in something so big and so exciting. It's awesome knowing that we can be able to help other people learn the Chickasaw language.
So host Chief Willett, Bill.
I'm proud of my heritage and keeping the culture alive. I want people to use these lessons and spread the language more.
That's a wrap.
Chipisalacho.
Chapisalacho.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Kent Myers here with the Chief Justice of the Oklahoma Supreme Court, so I'll absolutely be on my best behavior today. Justice Douglas Combs is joining us. He is a Shawnee native, born and raised there. He has served as a district judge, a special judge, been in private practice, been an assistant attorney general, and in 2010 went on the Oklahoma Supreme Court. He did his undergraduate education at that time St. Gregory's Junior College and at the University of Oklahoma, got his law degree at Oklahoma City University, and he is a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation here in Oklahoma. This is his first visit to The Verdict. Justice, welcome.
Thank you, Ken.
Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Well, congratulations on being elected to the Chief Justice position.
Thank you. It's quite an honor. First one from Potawatomi County.
Is that
that's
right?
Big to me. That's big to me.
Well, are you the first Muskogee Creek Nation?
I doubt that, but I know I'm the first from Potawatomi County.
Yeah, well, we're sure glad to have you. Talk to us a little bit about you. Immediately preceding this, you were the Vice Chief Justice, were you not?
That's right.
Talk to us a little bit about what those duties were. We haven't had on the show, at least in recent years, a person that served as Vice Chief Justice. Let's talk a little bit about what the Vice Chief does.
Okay. Well, the Chief Justice in Oklahoma is elected for a 2-year term as a general rule. The Vice Chief is elected at the same time as a 2-year term, so it's a rotating position. You refer to the Chief Justice as the first among equals. The Vice Chief would probably be the second among equals, and pretty much what the Vice Chief will do is anything the Chief Justice tells him to do. That's kind of how it flows. As a practical matter, you're a lot more involved with budgets, One of the things that the Chief Justice and Vice Chief Justice do are budgets for not only the Supreme Court, but also for the 77 court clerks across the state, the 77 county court clerks. Those budgets are approved by the Chief Justice and the Vice Chief Justice, and that's a process that takes a couple months.
Wow.
So the Vice Chief Justice is very involved in that. Vice Chief Justice is also involved in some of the other commissions and whatnot. I've been a member of the Access to Justice Commission in Oklahoma. Began that as Vice Chief, or actually began that prior to being Vice Chief, and maintained that as Vice Chief, and I'm still on that at this point. I haven't turned it over yet. Our Vice Chief Justice now is Noma Gurich from here in Oklahoma City. And we're just getting started in our reign, if you will, with those members.
You just started in January, did you?
I actually started in December. Chief Justice Reif, who I followed, asked after the elections in November, he asked if he could step out a little early, and he did. The court then elected me, so I've got one more month than what usually happens for the Chief Justice. I started December 1 instead of January 1.
Well, let's kind of skip ahead now to what does the Chief Justice of the Oklahoma Supreme Court do, just generally speaking?
Well, generally speaking, it's an administrative job. We are administrating over the court. You're making decisions with regard to bar disciplinary matters. It's a big part of what the Chief Justice Office does. You bring your staff. My staff is with me. My two staff attorneys have come over with me. If I had had a secretary as a vice chief, I would have brought that secretary, but I don't have one.
You're a chief justice without a secretary.
I don't have my own personal secretary. There is an existing secretary in the chief's office, Vicki Campbell, who's very important to the operation of the court. But the Chief Justice, for the most part, is the spokesman for the judiciary throughout the state. You chair the annual convention. You approve requests to exceed on the budget. You deal with disciplinary matters that come from the Council on Judicial Complaints, disciplinary matters that come from the Oklahoma Bar Association as well. And then to a certain the assignment of cases is another aspect, either assigned from the chief, whether or not cases are retained. The chief will make recommendations along those lines as well. So all of that stems from the chief's office.
Let's focus a little bit on your discipline responsibilities. I noticed you said it was discipline not only on the lawyers who are members of the Oklahoma Bar Association, as they must be if they're going to practice, but also on the Council of Judicial Complaints.
There is a process by which the council can make recommendations to the chief, and for the chief to make then a recommendation whether or not to take the complaint to the full court. And that's a process that can ultimately end with the court on the judiciary. Since I've been on the Supreme Court, we have not had a scenario where we've taken one to the court on the judiciary, which I think speaks very highly of the judiciary itself. So.
Well, indeed. About what percent of your time as chief do you spend on discipline matters? So far.
Bar disciplinary matters, probably, I would say 20%, 15 to 20% of the time. I'm a little surprised, frankly, when you get there to see how much time is involved with those disciplinary matters and review of those disciplinary matters. And then, of course, you're making that recommendation, taking it to the court itself in conference.
Now, when the court sits as a 9-member court to hear arguments on cases, how frequently does that occur?
The oral argument?
The oral argument.
Probably not as frequently as some lawyers would like for it to be. You know, it can be beneficial in some cases, but for the most part, so much of the study and into the decision of the case takes place through the briefing process and the pleading process, unlike at the trial court level where you're dealing with where you're going to have jury terms and testimony and preliminary motions, dispository motions, as you know from your years of experience as a trial attorney. So it's a little bit different. Oral argument, 4 or 5 times a year. That oral argument request is generally made, it's the decision made by the conference, by the court, whether or not we have oral argument. Oral argument, when it does happen, each side is usually given 30 minutes. It's broken up into 30 minutes. It's in the courtroom at the Capitol where we would conduct that.
And the chief presides.
The chief presides over that, basically controls the time and presides over that, those oral arguments as well.
Now, most of our bar members that watch the show would already know the answer to this question. Some of the non-lawyers may not. Your court does not deal with criminal matters. We
do not. One of 2 courts, we're 2 states in the country that have what we call a bifurcated system. Texas is the other. We have a Supreme Court and a Court of Criminal Appeals. The Supreme Court has general jurisdiction over all civil matters, And by constitutional provision, we are the superintending authority over those where there is a conflict between a civil matter and a criminal matter. The Court of Criminal Appeals is a 5-member court. The presiding judge is now Gary Lumpkin. We work very well together. We're in the same building, see each other in the garage, visit all the time, but it's a system that's worked well for us. The Texas has the same system and it works well for them, I think, too.
Talk a little bit about what our viewers may want to know or should know about your new building, the Justice Center.
Oh, it's a beautiful building. And
formerly the Historical Society.
Formerly the Historical Society. As a child, growing up in Shawnee, going to Will Rogers Elementary, I remember coming up here and going to the History Center when you had the Conestoga wagon down in the basement. That's where the court clerk's office is, the auditorium. Justice Cogger, the senior justice on the court, was really the controlling figure in the revamping of that, what we call the Oklahoma Judicial Center. It's the old History Center with an add-on behind it. It's absolutely a gorgeous building, something that the state can be very proud of. We are located, the Supreme Court's there, the Administrative Office of the Courts are there, which includes our MIS division, what your viewers would refer to as OSCN, the website that they go to search. That's in the building as well. The court clerk's office is also located there as well.
Discuss just very briefly, we only got a couple of minutes left in this segment, the Administrative Office of the Courts and how it relates to your office.
The Administrative Office of the Courts serves at the direction and pleasure of the Supreme Court. Our current director, a new director, she's been on the job for about a year and a half now, is former Lieutenant Governor Jerry Askins. Wealth brings a wealth of experience to us, both as she was a judge. I think she likes to say that she served in all 3 branches of government in Oklahoma. She was a judge. She's been in the legislature. She, of course, was lieutenant governor. She's been on the Pardon and Parole Board. She's been with DHS. She's just a wealth of experience. The Administrative Office of the Courts is the administrative arm and function that helps the courts deal with the employees in the judiciary, not only the state employees, but also the district court employees, the bailiff secretaries in the courthouses, the reporters, those sort of people.
Jerry has been on the job now for about a year and a half, I think you said.
I think right out a year and a half.
She will be a guest on an upcoming show pretty soon, but she's been on the show a bunch. I know that you're pleased to have her, and I'm sure she's doing a grand job. We need to take a little break here, and then when we come back, we want to talk about some other things like the court's budget and the like. You're visiting with Chief Justice Douglas Combs of the Oklahoma Supreme Court, and you're watching The Verdict. We'll be right back.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Kent Myers, you're visiting today or hearing from today the Chief Justice of the Oklahoma Supreme Court, Douglas Combs. We're back for our second segment with the Justice. Can you explain to our viewers a little bit of the procedure of how a case gets lodged in your court and how it goes about being disposed of once it's there?
Well, there's a couple of ways. The general way is an appeal from a trial court level, which means the parties file a petition in error with the Supreme Court Clerk's office, and from there the record is brought up. There's a briefing cycle that the lawyers will go through or the litigants will go through. And then there's a determination made as to whether or not the case should be assigned to the Court of Civil Appeals. And that determination is made on whether or not it may be a novel issue or a new issue, or if it's an issue of great public importance, will have some bearing on that. But generally speaking, a significant number of the cases will go to the Court of Civil Appeals first. The Court of Civil Appeals in one of the panels, there are 4 panels of the Court of Civil Appeals, will issue an opinion. They may have oral argument at their level as well, but they'll issue an opinion. The parties then have the opportunity to file what's called a petition for certiorari with the Supreme Court, asking the Supreme Court to review the decision of the Court of Civil Appeals. That petition for certiorari is brought to the court during our weekly conferences. That case would be assigned, that petition would be assigned to a justice for presentation to the court as a whole in conference.
Is that just an arbitrary assignment?
It's pretty much arbitrary by seniority. It's chief, vice chief, senior, and down the line. You know, we do everything pretty much by seniority. Justice Wyrick is the newest justice, so when I call him the rookie, he's the junior justice, literally, for that reason. But it's a rotation. No real pattern to it other than the rotation. That justice will present, there'll be a recommendation, the court will vote on a recommendation. We have what I call the rule of 5, which means 5 of us agree to grant cert, then the case is assigned to a justice. One of those 5 who wanted to hear the matter further will then be assigned that case, take the case, look at the briefs, determine whether or not an opinion should be written, how the opinion should be written, and then bring that back to the court again, submit the opinion for presentation, and then debate in conference, a final vote in conference, and then ultimately, if there is a majority of the court that approved that particular opinion, it is published on OSCN, our website. That generally happens on Tuesdays of the week. But that process we'd like to move them along from the time that the lawsuit is filed, the petition in error is filed, to ultimate disposition. We really shoot for a year. That's about it. If it goes to the Court of Civil Appeals, you've got different elements that are involved in that, but from the standpoint, once the petition for cert's granted, it should come fairly quickly. We'd like for it to come fairly quickly.
About how many cases a year, on average, does the court receive that are new cases for it?
New cases in the sense of an appeal as a petition in error?
Oh, all cases?
All cases? Oh,
yes.
Gosh, I don't have that number with me, but I think it's probably, I would say 800, somewhere in that neighborhood. We have petitions, you have appeals from the trial court levels. You also have original actions, which is an application to assume original jurisdiction. You'll have ballot title disputes, and we've seen some of those here lately. You have those. You'll have appeals from administrative bodies, Corporation Commission, Tax Commission, all of those things. The bar disciplinary matters also will go to an opinion with the court as a whole as well. So all of those things ultimately end up with the Supreme Court. So the number can grow. The number of opinions from the Supreme Court may be lower because the parties will stop with the Court of Civil Appeals. They will not ask for petition for cert. They may ask for rehearing, those sort of things.
They may settle in the process.
And they may settle. A lot of cases now settle. You've seen a tremendous reduction, I think, in jury trials throughout the state because the parties are settling their cases. And there's not a problem in settling the case. You reach finality, you know what you got.
Yeah, you've avoided the risk.
You avoid the risk.
When you were a justice before you were vice chief or chief on the Oklahoma Supreme Court, just describe your day. How did it go? What did you do insofar as handling cases are concerned?
I could start in Shawnee where I get up and drive down I-40. But
we might accelerate to
when
you get there.
Move past that till I get in the office. Yeah. Well, our week generally is we have conference on Monday and on Thursdays, opinion conferences on Thursdays. The circulation for the next week is usually made on Tuesday of the week prior. So each week you are reviewing those cases that are on the next coming conference docket. And there may be anywhere from 15 to 20 cases for review, either petition for certiorari or an application to assume original jurisdiction that are reviewed on a weekly basis.
That's a lot of reading.
It's an awful lot of reading. Unlike the trial court where you're dealing with things real quickly and you're dealing with the people and litigants and whatnot, in the Supreme Court as a justice, it's almost monastic and it's so quiet, an awful lot of reading. You rely on your staff quite a bit to help you as well to move through those cases so that you have an understanding, basic understanding as to whether or not you believe that a petition for cert should be granted, should not be granted, what your position is on it, whether or not you want to write on an opinion as a dissent or concur in part of it, dissent in part of it. All of those things go into play, and it's repetitive. It's each week. The routine is pretty much the same each week.
Insofar as the Court of Civil Appeals is concerned, I want to make clear that it is a court that is inferior to the Supreme Court, but superior to the district courts.
Yes.
In the hierarchy.
It's an intermediate appellate court.
Yeah. And that's not something we've always had. The Court of Civil Appeals, relatively speaking, is a fairly new concept in Oklahoma.
It is. It is.
And how are those judges selected, the Court of Civil Appeals?
Same way that the Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals are selected. Judicial nominating, since 1967, court reorganization 1967, through the Judicial Nominating Commission, you'll make an application based upon residency and districts. The Judicial Nominating Commission reviews those applications, OSBI background's involved with that. They'll make a recommendation to the governor. The governor then makes an appointment for the Court of Civil Appeals. Their terms, they then stand for a retention ballot, just like the Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals. For your viewers, that's the yes-no ballot that you saw in November, and you'll see again here in 2018.
How often does let's go back to the Supreme Court, how often does a Supreme Court justice stand for retention?
When you're first appointed, you have to stand for retention at the general election within 2 years, the first general election within 2 years. So for example, Justice Wyrick, who was just appointed, will need to stand for general election in 2018, statewide general election, on a yes or no ballot. He'll then, at that point, complete the balance of the 6-year term. The justices' terms are 6 years, so he'd serve for 4 years and then have to be on the ballot again, a retention ballot. In my case, I actually started January 1 of 2011. I was on the November 2012 retention ballot. I replaced Justice Rudy Hargrave from Wewoka, and then stood again on the ballot in 2016, which was for a 6-year term, which will end in 2022. There are 3, Kent, so they understand, because there's 9 members of the court, ordinarily there are 3 members that were on each general election cycle, so it's rotating.
Yeah. Talk to us about the budget situation and how it is going to impact the court.
Well, the budget situation for the court, we are not an agency. We're a branch of government, or in our Constitution referred to as a department, one of the 3 departments, executive, legislative, and judicial. And the budget situation is dire for us as it is for the agencies. We have had, we look at our budget in two ways. There's a district court budget and the Supreme Court budget. The district court budget deals with the trial courts throughout the state, all 77 counties, and the local court funds in those 77 counties. But our budget has decreased every year from an appropriated funds since 2008. The general appropriated funds for the judiciary is about $12 million from last year, but yet it cost us to operate about $66 million. For the entire judiciary, both the district court and the Supreme Court, the total amount is about $120 million out of a total budget. To give you some perspective, we're talking about an $800 million shortfall, but the total budget for the entire judiciary, which is 99% salaries, there's not a lot of programs that we have, is about $120 million. So from our budget standpoint, it's when we have to cut, there's not programs that we can cut. We're talking about having to cut people. And we've managed to avoid that the last several years because our trial judges do such a great job in collection of the fines and fees, but it's becoming harder and harder to do that.
Well, it's a constant juggling act, I guess, particularly at your office.
Absolutely is.
Well, we're going to have that be the last word, Mr. Chief Justice. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you coming. We appreciate our viewers getting a chance to meet you and hear what you do, and we hope you'll come back again.
I'd like to do that. Thank you, Ken.
You've been watching The Verdict. I'll be right back.
There are now 11 million of us who live here and work here. I was 15 when I came here 6 years ago. I raised my family here. I drive my truck to my job every day. The only difference between now and 6 years ago, I do it legally. I wanted to. Because this is my home.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
We are a very conservative family, and we believe in old-fashioned family values. We have a loving home there, and we love kids, and we have 5, 6 of our own. And but I had no idea we were going to go into adoption, but it's been very gratifying.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back. We're really pleased today to welcome the new Chief Justice of the Oklahoma Supreme Court, Douglas Combs, to our show. And we thought we've had, as I said, every Chief Justice for the last 16 years has come on the show and told us about what they do and how they do it. And Justice Combs did a wonderful job explaining it to you today, and I know that you probably do appreciate it. A couple of websites to give you. If you want to get a hold of the Supreme Court by website, it's www.oscn.net. And of course, we, for The Verdict, have a website. It's theverdict.tv. Get on that website, tell us what you'd like to see, whom you'd like to have on, and we'll listen to you and do our best to accommodate. We sure appreciate you joining us this week. Mick will be back next week. You've been watching The Verdict.